If you didn't recognize that intro, then let me paint you a picture. It's early April in Georgia. The azaleas are blooming. The fairways at Augusta National look like they've been manicured by angels. And the roar of the patrons echoes softly through Amen corners. The Masters has begun. And with names like Pink Dogwood, Golden Bell, Tea Olive, and Carolina Cherry, these are some of the most well-known holes in golf. And while the swings are elegant and the stakes are sky high, the golf vocabulary, well, it can be kind of weird. Birdies, bogeys, eagles, albatrosses, pars, fore, and fairways. This isn't just a game, it's a language of its own. And somewhere along the way, golf terms went from the fairways to everyday idioms. And today, we're digging into the linguistic bunker to decode the curious, colorful, and sometimes completely confusing world of golf. Welcome back to Lexiconned, the podcast where words get analyzed like a master's slow-motion replay. I'm your host, TJ, and today I'll be your trusted caddy on the curious etymology of golf terms. Because golf might be the only sport where a bird, a goblin, and a Latin noun can all ruin or save your weekend. My only regret is that I won't be able to do this entire podcast in the voice of Jim Nance.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the final round of this tradition unlike any other.
To start off this front nine, we're going to tee it up on the first hole with the word golf itself. The word golf most likely comes from the Middle Dutch word kalf or kalv, meaning club or bat. It was adopted into Scottish as goff or guff, first appearing in written form in the 15th century. Now, ironically, one of the earliest known references comes from a 1457 Act of Scottish Parliament, which banned golf because it distracted from archery practice, which was considered more vital to the national defense. So yes, golf was once considered too rebellious to be legal. I personally like to picture a 15th century Scottish version of James Dean being all broody with his golf bag over his shoulder, looking at Parliament and saying, "You're not going to use me as an excuse again." Well, anyway, it wasn't until the 18th century that the modern rules of golf began to emerge in Scotland, and with them, a whole new vocabulary. Moving on to our second hole, we have the word par. From the Latin word par, meaning equal, the term par entered golf via the world of economics, where it referred to parity or a standard of value. Its use in golf began in the 19th century to describe the number of strokes that a scratch golfer, or someone with a zero handicap, should need to complete a hole or a course. The term was formally standardized by the Royal and Ancient Golf Club of St. Andrews in 1890. Before that, scoring expectations varied by club and sometimes by ego. Rounding the bend into the third. Here we have, better than par, birdie. Now, the first recorded use of birdie comes from a game in 1903 at the Atlantic City Country Club. Player Ab Smith hit a perfect shot on a par 4, and his playing partners declared, "You hit a bird of a shot." Bird was a popular American slang at the time, meaning something impressive or stylish, kind of like calling something cool or slick. So Ab tapped in his easy putt for 1 under par, and the group agreed to call it a birdie. The term caught on so fast that Atlantic City Country Club has a plaque commemorating the event, and thus a score of 1 under par became birdie. And coming off of birdie, we're here at the fourth with eagle. Naturally, if a birdie was good, something better needed a bigger bird. So the eagle, symbol of the United States, fit the bill for a score of 2 under par. It started appearing in golf circles in the early 1910s as American golf culture took off. But the term eagle's first printed appearance was in 1919 in the Maclean's Magazine of Canada, describing a particularly strong round by a U.S. golfer. As American pride in the game grew, so did the size of the metaphor. 1 under was cool, a birdie. 2 under? Bald, bold, and soaring, eagle. Unlike birdie, eagle never had a slang use. It was pure metaphorical inflation. More impressive bird, better score. Leaving the fourth, we move on to the unbelievable view here at the fifth, where we're talking albatross. Rare, majestic, almost mythic. The albatross represents a score of 3 under par on a single hole, and this term first appeared in British golf reporting around the 1930s. It came from the idea of rare seabirds, extremely hard to encounter, just like that score itself. The albatross also has some poetic baggage. It shows up in Samuel Taylor Coleridge's The Rime of the Ancient Sea Mariner, when the seabird becomes both a symbol of grace and burden. Scoring an albatross is rare, miraculous, and unforgettable, just like seeing one in flight. So yes, 3 under par on a single hole is a bird of myth. Just be careful you don't wear it around your neck. In the US, the term double eagle was also used sometimes, even though mathematically it's slightly off. But hey man, when you're 3 under on a single hole, I'll let you call it whatever you want. Now, leaving the 5th and bringing us back to reality here on the 6th, we have bogey. The term bogey originally meant the score a good player was expected to make, especially in British golf in the 1890s. So apparently I'm just golfing in the wrong time period and apparently on the wrong continent. But the word itself, it has older, more sinister roots. From the 1800s, bogeyman referred to a frightening imaginary figure used to scare children. The word bogey, or boggard, meant ghost, goblin, or a haunting presence. Golfers adopted it jokingly. I'm chasing the bogeyman, trying to meet that expected score. And the first known bogeyman in golf was reportedly invented by Hugh Rotherham, secretary of the Coventry Golf Club in the 1890s. He proposed a ground score for each hole, which they jokingly blamed on an imaginary character, Colonel Bogey. By 1892, music hall songs referenced Colonel Bogey as a standard to beat, and that's how bogey became both a score and a ghost you chase. So if bogey was the standard, well, what happened? In 1911, the United States Golf Association, or USGA, officially adopted par as the scoring baseline for competition. And even though bogey held on as the standard in British golf until the roughly 1930s, eventually all international standards converged. And when par replaced bogey as the standard, bogey then became 1 over par, a mark of slight failure. And in military aviation, it took on a whole new life. A bogey is an unidentified aircraft, possibly hostile, which feels about right if you've ever 3-putted yourself into that enemy bogey. Now, a short turn into the 7th, and we're taking on fore, spelled F-O-R-E, the famous warning cry in golf.
Fore!
Fore is a shortened version of fore caddy. Now, in the early days of golf, when golf balls were expensive, golfers employed fore caddies, who would walk ahead of the player to stand where they expected the ball to land and hopefully reduce the number of lost balls. The word fore caddy was first used in 1792, but the first documented use of fore as a shout didn't appear until 1878, recorded during a Scottish golf game. Some scholars also trace fore to the British military cry of "beware before," used by artillery units to warn friendly troops ahead of incoming fire, which I think tracks considering how fast a mishit Titleist can travel and how hard it can hit. So when you shout fore, you're essentially yelling, "Heads up, incoming," which, when you think about it, makes it the most honest word in the whole game. Oh, and just a side note, the first named caddy was Andrew Dixon, who acted as fore caddy for the Duke of York as a boy in the 1681-82 timeframe when he played on Leith Links. Now, a steep walk over to the 8th, we find the word fairway. The fairway is the golfer's promised land. Short, trimmed grass between the tee box and the green. The word itself comes from older English usage of fairway, literally meaning a clear or unobstructed path. In the 16th and 17th centuries, sailors used fairway to describe a navigable channel of water. So by the time golf was formalized in Scotland, the term made perfect sense. The fairway was the navigable path to the hole, the cleanest route. Everything else, the rough, the sand, trees, and water, well, that's where your game and your vocabulary usually goes off the rails. Now we move on to the 9th, and we have the word green. No word in all of golf is more deceptively simple than green. Sure, it describes the color, but in golf, the green is the sacred space, the smooth, carefully manicured putting surface, where every hole ends and reputations are made or broken. The term dates back to the earliest written golf rules in Scotland in the 18th century. Greens were originally just parts of the natural terrain, usually trampled down by use. Over time, they became purpose-built, and today, they're as engineered as a race car track. Linguistically, green comes from the Old English word green, spelled Grene, meaning young, fresh, or growing, and it's linked to the Proto-Indo-European root of grey, meaning to grow. Keeping that in mind, we all know that the green is where your score can grow. So in golf, the green isn't just a surface. It's the final test, the quietest moment, the pressure cooker. And no matter how well you've played the hole, it's where everything can change with a single putt. Now on the front nine, we've covered golf's geography and some scoring terms. As we move on to the back nine here, we're going to explore some shots, mishits, words born in muscle memory, caddy chatter, and a few four-letter moments. Sorry we don't have time to stop for a hot dog here at the turn. We have to keep up our pace of play. Now at the 10th, we have drive. The drive is the big opening shot, the tee box blast that sets the tone. The word comes from the Old English, driffen, meaning to push forward with force, and it appears in Middle English, roughly the 13th and 14th century contexts, like driving cattle or driving stakes into the ground. In golf, drive became standard for long-distance shots by the 1800s. It's also the only word in golf that doubles as a motivational poster cliché. Find your drive, or lose it in the woods on hole 1. Now, as we walk across the bridge here to hole 11, we find the word putt. The putt is the precision move, the gentle tap on the green meant to seal the deal. The word entered Scottish golf slang in the 18th century, possibly derived from put, meaning to push, which in turn traces back to Middle English and Old French, putter. A good putt wins championships. A bad putt ruins weekends. Either way, it's the swing that defines your scorecard, and oftentimes your self-esteem. Leaving the 11th, now looking at the 12th, we find chip. A chip is a short, low-flying stroke used to pop the ball onto the green, ideally. Linguistically, it comes from the 16th century verb chip, meaning to cut small pieces out of something. It entered the golf lingo around the 1800s, describing a shot that chips away at the distance left between you and the hole. Ironically, despite sounding delicate, a bad chip is one of the fastest ways to lose friends in a golf scramble. Now, staring down the tree-lined 13, it's hook. A hook is a shot that veers hard left, specifically for right-handed players, and the word comes from the literal shape of the flight path, a hook in the air. First documented in print in the late 1800s, as golfers began describing their errant shots more precisely and poetically. And even though the word's been around golf for more than 200 years, the first time you hit one, you're pretty sure no one has ever done it worse. In other sports, the slang term hook also became a term for punches in boxing and passes in football. But in golf, it's more like a punch to your soul. As we try to recover from 13, we move on to 14, and we find slice. A slice is the evil twin of the hook, a ball that veers dramatically to the right. Borrowed from the culinary world, slice was first used in golf in the 19th century. It described a shot where the club face sliced across the ball at an angle, causing side spin. Some say it's the most common miss in amateur golf. Others say it's a rite of passage. But everyone agrees it's annoying. Now, as we shake off the disasters behind us, we move over to the 15th, and it's shank. Shank is golf's version of Voldemort, a word you just don't say. It comes from the Old English, shanka, meaning leg or shin, and in golf it refers to hitting the ball with the hosel, the part of the club where the head meets the shaft. And when that happens, the ball rockets off sideways like it's trying to escape the course entirely. It's been a slang word for something you mess up badly since at least the 1940s, and even now, no golfer likes to hear it. Ever. As we try to keep our composure and put that behind us, we're now at the 16th, known as duff. A duff is a poorly hit shot, usually where the club hits the ground well before the ball. The origin is Scottish dialect, first recorded around the 19th century. It may be related to duff, meaning to strike clumsily. It's the linguistic equivalent of a facepalm. And yes, it's where duffer, that slang term for a bad golfer and my weekend nickname, comes from. The word has had other lives too. It famously appears in The Simpsons as the name of Homer's beer of choice, Duff Beer. Coincidence? Maybe. But beer and golf go together like, well, beer and golf. Hoping to find our stride, here we are at the 17th, and the word is handicap. Your handicap is the number that makes golf fair, or at least theoretically. The term comes from an old British trading game called hand in cap, where players offered goods or money and reached into a cap to balance the value. The concept evolved into sports around the 1700s, allowing weaker players to compete evenly with stronger ones by adjusting the handicap. In golf, your handicap is your equalizer, or, in my case, your excuse, depending on the day. Now, making that long walk back, we're finally at 18, and the word is mulligan. A mulligan is a do-over, an unofficial second shot after a bad first one. And the origin of this term is a little murky, but the most popular theory ties it to David Mulligan, a Canadian golfer in the 1920s and 30s who supposedly took an extra shot after a poor tee shot, jokingly calling it a, quote, correction shot. But another theory on the origin is the locker room legend, and it's definitely my favorite. According to this theory, the mulligan originated at the Winged Foot Golf Club in New York during the 1930s. A locker room attendant, whose last name was Mulligan, was known for handing out second chances to players heading out for a round. If a member was late, rushed, or had a rough start, Mulligan would say, "Take another, this one doesn't count." Eventually, the players began calling that unofficial do-over a mulligan in his honor. And while there's no written record to confirm this version, it captures the spirit of the term. It's a second shot, given not by the rules, but by mercy or tradition or a well-timed wink. As golf historian Peter Landau once put it, a mulligan is the kind of grace that rules don't offer, but your foursome just might. And while it's never been officially recognized by the USGA, the mulligan has become a staple of weekend golf, especially in those charity scrambles and company outings where generosity beats precision every time. Either way, it's not in the rule book, but I can guarantee it's always in your buddy's bag. Moving outside to the clubhouse, we can see that golf's language has escaped the course. You don't need to own a set of clubs to recognize most of these terms. When something goes as expected, it's par for the course. When you mess up a presentation, ooh, that was a total shank. When you nail a proposal, well, you crush that drive. When you ask for a second chance, you're hoping for a mulligan. When you get passed over for a promotion, maybe your boss sliced you out of the loop. The terms have become metaphors, shortcuts to describe failure, finesse, luck, or redemption. In business, golf language is practically a second dialect. Executives don't just pitch ideas, they try to land them on the green. There are handicaps in negotiations, hooks in marketing, and plenty of duffs in performance reviews. In politics, golf metaphors are everywhere. Candidates try to drive the message home. Opponents can hook left or slice right. In pop culture, golf terms show up in sitcoms, stand-up, and song lyrics. Comedians like George Carlin and Robin Williams both riffed on the absurd elegance of the game and its weird words. Snoop Dogg actually once rhymed about getting a birdie on the verse. Even self-help language borrows from the links. Stay on the fairway. Play the long game. You're just one good shot away from the green. And let's not forget the Masters effect. Golf's holiest stage, Augusta National, where legends are made and language is carved into those highlight reels. In 1997, a 21-year-old Tiger Woods demolished the field, winning by 12 strokes. He turned eagle and fairway into household words overnight. In 2004, Phil Mickelson was stuck behind trees on 13, and he was able to bend a shot around branches and onto the green and into folklore. And that was no ordinary hook. That was geometry with swagger. But in 2019, Tiger did it again. Fairway to green, comeback to coronation, delivering one of the greatest sports moments of the decade. You could feel the commentators' words land with every swing. Drive, chip, putt, win. These and so many other golf moments are etched in history, relived, replayed, and remembered by millions. And if you're a golfer, you have your own golf stories, memories, and expressions. A group that golfs together regularly has their own tribal language, built of words, phrases, or occasionally just sounds that represent a specific shot, specific hole, specific golf course, or a person. The golf language reflects the sport itself. It's polite on the surface, brutal underneath, and weirdly poetic all the way through. Because whether you're chasing a birdie, saving a par, or surviving a shank, there's a word for it. Even if you've never played around, chances are you've already spoken golf. Now, I know we haven't covered all the golf terms. There's so many more, like ace, that slang term for a hole-in-one, or a lip-out, that putt that catches the edge of the cup at just the wrong spin and rolls from in to out, or looper, an old nickname for caddies who, as the name suggests, would walk in a loop. And this was popularized by groundskeeper Carl, played by Bill Murray in Caddyshack, who famously was a looper for the Dalai Lama himself. There are so many great words, phrases, and expressions associated with the game of golf. We could probably turn this into a 72-word, 4-day tournament, just like the Masters. But let's stick with the 18 we played today and come back to another course for more later. Golf is one of the few sports where silence is sacred, movement is minimal, and the vocabulary is wildly imaginative. Where else can you celebrate by chirping, or groan because you summoned a phantom, or shout a warning based on a 19th century job title? Golf isn't just a game. It's a quietly epic word factory. And even if you've never played 18 holes, the words this game has given us have landed far beyond the fairway. So the next time someone says they shot a bogey, remember, it could mean 1 over par, could mean a rough day at work, or it could mean a fighter jet is at 12 o'clock. Context is everything with that one. Thanks for taking the time to walk this 18-hole linguistic links of golf terms with me. Now get out there and chase your own version of the green jacket. Unless, of course, you're a professional playing at Augusta, in which case, good luck and chase the green jacket. And if you like this episode, don't forget to tip your caddy by hitting like, follow, or share with friends. It really does help. As always, Lexiconned is written, recorded, and produced by me, your logophile companion, TJ Martin. Sources and additional credits are in the show notes. Thanks for listening.